What's your take on becoming a polyglot?
So, in general, I would say don't learn languages at the same time because it's hard enough to learn one, and learning a language to a large extent involves depth of focus. All right, so the way that you get results in a language is by going as deep as you can. Surround yourself with more, spend more time, have more conversations. Like it's that depth of focus that will get you results. So that, like, it's highly correlated, right? The depth of your focus and results will be. And so every time you introduce a second language or a third language, you're just diluting your focus. So if we're talking pure, all things being equal, efficiency, I would say stick with one language, learn that well, and the confidence you get from that will allow you to learn more if you want. Now, the caveat is none of this matters anyway, so you may as well enjoy yourself. So learn 3 languages at the same time.
Yeah, right. But not optimal. Got it.
Not optimal.
Do you think maybe do you think a good approach, because this is kind of like what I thought would be a pretty decent approach, is every 8 months or 9 months, or maybe you could just say a year, every 12 months, you learn a language hardcore, full immersion, whether it's reading through courses like yourself or doing the refold method or doing all of the above. And you spend 12 months, let's say, for example, Spanish. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm pretty decent at Spanish. Now I'm going to learn German, and I'm going to translate in my head the translation of German words into Spanish to keep my Spanish fresh, but also double down on my Spanish and then learn German at the same time. So I can keep that. And then every 12 months, I learn a new language. So in, 10 years, I have 10 languages that I learn, and you're translating them. I also have a question about translating your native language versus your target language. But what would you say about that? Every 8 to 12 months, learn a new language only. And then that would be like your scale. Like every 8 months, you learn a new language, and then you use your old language to translate the words in your new language.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I did in the early years. I learned French and then Spanish and then Portuguese. That's kind of what I did, and it's definitely works. I think there's a couple of things to say. Number one, you want to make sure that the language you're working on for those 8 months, you get to an upper intermediate, or B2, as it's known in the Common European Framework level, because there's a level at which you won't forget a language, no matter how long, and that's the level. It's B2, which means you are pretty conversationally proficient. You can understand most things, say most things. Get to that level first, because if you're any lower, what will happen is you'll start to get super confused and you'll forget stuff. So that's the kind of principle there. It's like get your language to a very, very proficient conversational level before you even think about another language. And so because of that, for that reason, I think that's the number one thing to remember. And so because of that, I'd say any attempt to guess how long it's going to take you is almost certainly going to be wrong. So
Understand.
I think
what were the levels that someone could gauge if they wanted to actually track it?
So this is something called the Common European Framework of Reference, or CEFR, and it's a system that we use in Europe and quite widely around the world, actually, for gauging levels. And those levels go up from A to B to C. So we have A being the most basic and C being the most proficient. So you have A1 and A2, then you have B1 and B2, and then C1 and C2. So C2 is like hardcore, academic standard. A1 is very early stage, beginner.
Gotcha.
And if you go online, you can just type in CEFR level descriptors. You can see what those levels involve.
So don't move on until you're a B1, you said?
B2.
B2. So until you get to B2, don't even think about going to another language in general.
Again, if we're talking about like optimum efficiency. So I've found but let me give you an example. So for example, my French was at B2 level when I was 20 years old. I've hardly spoken French since I left Paris, but I still remember pretty much everything. I can speak very, very well.
Because you got to that level.
Because I got to that level. Now, my Arabic, on the other hand, because I lived in Egypt for a year,
Oh wow.
and Qatar as well for a year and a half before that in the Gulf. My Arabic was probably A2, so
Mm,
significantly less. I could kind of hold a conversation
kind of.
ish, and I left. Uh, I left Egypt, moved back to the UK. Within 6 months, I've forgotten everything, and I can hardly speak Arabic today.
Really? You
So
don't think if you did a review course, it would be like riding a bike?
I would need a couple of months to get back.
Really, a couple months? That's kind
Yeah,
of long.
I think so. But Arabic's a very hard language, so it's kind of it's different, really. But the point is that, like, if you, what is the point of learning a language? You
Mm.
want it, unless it's just like a,
People want to show off. Come on, Ali. They want to be Bradley
they
Cooper and
do,
take girls on dates and speak Japanese to at the sushi restaurant and totally impress their girlfriend. Duh.
and I highly recommend doing all. I highly recommend doing all of that. But you also want it for life, right? And I can say that one of the biggest joys in my life right now, for example, is when my daughter speaks to her mum, to my wife, in Cantonese, because she's from Hong Kong. I can understand everything they talk about.
Oh, that's amazing.
And when we go to Hong Kong, and not so much anymore since the CCP did their thing, but when we go to Hong Kong, we have in Hong Kong. I mean, my spoken Cantonese is not it's not super good,
Mhm.
but I can understand everything. Right, so I can exist in that world with them, and be there. I can travel to. I'm going to Portugal next week. I'm going to be able to go there, um, speak to everyone in Portuguese. I'm going to Argentina in October for my friend's wedding. I'm going to be able to speak Spanish the whole time there.
Wow.
I enjoy speaking Japanese on a weekly basis with friends and tutors. That for me is one of the most fulfilling things about my life, and I just love it to bits. But it's only there because I've got those languages to a level where
Right.
I I know them well and I can maintain them. So it seems a massive shame to spend 6 months learning a language because you can, and then just to forget it.